The Reverend Susyn.
Hello, those of you at Zoom, and what a treat to be standing here again. And when about 2 months ago, when I spoke with Elizabeth to schedule this and looked at the theme for the month, the word, the first word that came to my mind was yippee! So if you'd like to join me for a moment with just a yippee! So I have many notes and various things, and what I'm aware of, which happens so often for me when I speak here, is that the words of the opening song really are instructions for us about focusing on words that carry power. The first words, the first line of the opening song, swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. And being here in community with us, as much as I have appreciated Zoom since April of 2020, when I really only had to make sure I was dressed looking acceptable from the waist up. Now I had to get totally dressed. It's such a gift to be in community. And all of us, whatever our journey has been since March of 2020, whether it's been filled with fear, isolation, loss, some loss that included death, some loss of our routines. What I became aware of is because my regular routine was not working, is that I had to be awake and I had to pay attention. And today, as I listened to Meyer's beautiful words, as Nick spoke them, and then Raising the Veil, which is a song that I love so very much, I seem to hear the words differently than I'd ever heard them before, and was reminded once again of the power of words. And for those of you who read the quotes in the announcement for today's service that I think came out on Friday, the words of Ernest Holmes tell us everything that we need to know about the words, about the word. The word is the law unto its own manifestation, and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment. The other quote, also by Ernest Holmes, until we realize that our own word has the power of life, we will not see clearly. But long before Ernest Holmes, in the Gospel of John, the words are, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God. The Word is creator. The Word brings forth whatever our dominant vibration is. The Word calls to us to be mindful, which doesn't mean that if we're having a difficult time, that we hide our feelings of fear, uncertainty, worry, a sense of betrayal. But what it means is we acknowledge those feelings. We acknowledge those words. So we can then make a new choice. So we can move that energy of isolation out of us. So I was thinking a lot, particularly this morning, because I think a lot about, many of you have heard this from me, I think a lot about the topic as soon as I know when I'm going to speak. But I really don't get it together until about 7:30 this morning, when I'm flooded with ideas. And then I come in here and I hear the song and I hear the opening prayer and we meditate, and then new ideas pop into my mind. But if the word is God and we are made in God's image, and the God spark, source energy, love, higher power, whatever word or words you use to define the great mystery, it is a reminder that we are creators, and every moment we are creating. And what is the creative process? It's thoughts. And what are thoughts? Words. Thoughts charged with emotional energy, spoken of with authority, and acted on with conviction, with faith. And we are living in a time, more than ever that I remember in my a little more than 70 decades, where we see that we are one more than ever before, a global pandemic, war going on in Ukraine that is on television, that is before our very eyes, that is raising the partisanship, the different stories that people believe. And what are stories? Stories are made up of words. And when the words are spoken with authority, whether or not they are fact, people come to believe the story. So more than anything, as I thought about being here today, it's that this is the time for each of us to commit to living our wholehearted life, because our words make a difference. Words with a capital W, thoughts with a capital T. Because when I have a thought, when I am aware of the words and I have a thought, and my emotional energy, my vibration, as though I'm a tuning fork, is there in the world, it impacts the collective consciousness. None of us know which one of us, or all of us together in community, will be the tipping point, will be the tipping point for knowing that we are one, for owning the responsibility we have, that if we want a more loving world, as I want a more loving world for my grandkids and their kids, and in Native practices, it's for 7 generations beyond, then pay attention to my words is my responsibility. some of you, I remember in the, I think it was in the 80s, there were a number of people, particularly I think I remember Lindsay Kane, who had the Metaphysical Bookstore, for those of you who lived here during that time. And I believe she taught a course, I don't remember the title of it, but it was about communication. And it was when you notice yourself saying something about fear, about worry, about gossip, about blame, say cancel, cancel. That was my big takeaway from it. Intervene. Not that what you're saying is bad, not that what you're saying is wrong. Rather that in the moment, we have the opportunity to create a new brain pathway. And there are a number of people who are part of this community who, this is the second year they're in a group with me. And I've become a badger with them, starting at the end of last year and through this year. I interrupt them when they're apologizing for there's nothing to be apologizing for. I interrupt them when they're giving me a whole story where all we really need is the headline. I interrupt them when I hear them say a word that I think really isn't aligned with love, not because they're wrong, so they'll be awake to their words, to what they're creating. And do our words create the world we desire? So I want to tell you some of my favorite words. Some of you already know. One of my favorite, saying is reveal yourself. And there are many other ways to say, there are many other statements for that, but reveal yourself to me is when I am, something seems lost to me, cannot find something. I have said this now for about 15 years. I declare, reveal yourself. And then the next step is, I've got to see the object in my hand. It's not enough, as happened with my granddaughter, who's going to be 21 this week, but when she was around 6, she couldn't find something. And I said to her, say, reveal yourself. And she rolled her eyes at me and she said, okay, reveal yourself. And then she said, I can't find it. What if I never find it? No, it's you say it as a prayer, as an affirmative prayer. I see it. It's here in my hand. I don't have to know where it's going to show up. And a pair of my eyeglasses that I was certain I took off as I was sitting on the sofa in my house. And the next thing I knew, they were gone. 2 months later, I found them outside under a chair. I have no idea how they got there. What I do know is that every single time they popped into my mind, the vision and the words that went with it. Ah, yes, so nice to see you. And so, reveal yourself. The other thing I've learned from a young woman on Instagram, whose name is, I wrote down her name, but not on the paper that I brought here. It's the one, her name is, I think it's Liel or Lyle Eden. And she wrote about abracadabra. Now, my guess is that we all have heard the words abracadabra. True? And it's like abracadabra and the door opens. Abracadabra and the door of my heart opens. And what she wrote was that abracadabra, which stems from Judaism, the first part of it, abara, means I will create. And kadabra, as I speak. And so I kind of like that word because of the magic of abracadabra. And growing up, probably seeing, I'm thinking that it was oh, what is the name of it? On the magic carpet. Who knows the name of that Disney?
Aladdin.
Aladdin, yes, thank you. Aladdin on the magic carpet would say abracadabra and magic would happen. So that's another one of my favorite words. So I offer it to you. And I got the 5-minute warning. So I'm not going to tell you all of my words. But I'm just going to tell you a few. Words carry a message. So did you know, and some of you have heard this from me before, that if you take the letters of the word listen and scramble them, you get silent. If you take the word earth and take the H at the end and put it at the beginning, you get hard. So maybe the lessons of living on earth is to swing wide the door and keep it open of our heart. And forgive. I like to think about forgive, really forgiving as two words, for and giving. What are you for giving? So how do I use this 5 minutes, which is probably 4 minutes, and do two things at once? So some of you who've heard me speak before may be wondering, does she or doesn't she? She does. Pass them around. They're different colors. They have things in them. And I want to close by reading you a story, if I can find it here. And maybe I don't have it. So I'm going to tell, oh, here it is. In 1976, I lived in New Hampshire. My then husband and I had just traveled cross country for 10 months in a camper, which was a really good experience for someone who grew up in Manhattan and thought that I was in the center of the universe, because I was. We lived at that time according to our body rhythms from a book that we had read. So even though I worked full time, I leave the house in the morning around 8. I go to work. I get home at around 5. We'd have a quick meal, and then we would go to sleep, and for a few hours. Then in the middle of the night, we'd wake up and we'd write or meditate or something like that, go back to sleep, wake up again, go to work. And I wrote a story then. I wrote a book that I'm now in the midst of 46 years later, turning into a children's book. It's about 230 words. It's called I Like Me. I like me. There have been times I didn't like me. I didn't think I was pretty, witty, or smart. I didn't trust me. I wasn't sure if anybody liked me. I felt all alone. Slowly, very slowly, I began to whisper. I feel witty, sometimes angry, sometimes pretty. Some of those other people began to say, I feel mad, sometimes glad, and sometimes sad. Yippee, you feel that way too? I'm not alone. I'm not so different. As time passed, I increasingly trusted me. And as I trusted me, I trusted more and more people with my thoughts, my feelings, with me. My voice became louder. I began to admit that I feel different ways on different days. Some ways are painful, lonely, and sad. Others are loving, joyous, and glad. All are part of me. all my thoughts, feelings, and sensations are me, neither good nor bad, right or wrong, simply a way I am at a given point in time. As an explorer during my journey of life, I have discovered that when I like me, I like you too.